What's going on, everyone watching and listening, and welcome to another edition of Inspired by with Stowe. And as you can see, I have a very special guest to go ahead and end season one with, the one and only VaShawn Mitchell. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, my man. Glad to be on the season finale.
Yeah. This is huge. And just with your longevity in the game, and doing gospel music on the mainstream, it's definitely an honor to have you here to speak to everyone and spread some inspiration, especially during these times.
Absolutely.
So I've heard that you are called the gospel plug. Like, you like connecting people and pushing people forward. So who are some of the artists that we know of that you've been able to have that type of influence on?
You know what? I had a good career. While I was kind of coming up, I guess, I connected with Tasha Cobbs Leonard, of course, and produced her first two projects. And then I became the executive producer on Anthony Brown's project and quite a few other artists as well, just helping them maneuver the industry and get connected to the right places. It's been a passion of mine, I guess, and I continue to do it even to this day. I don't know if you know Tiff Joy McGee. She's on my label, and people found out about her when she sang the song and wrote the song "Amazing" with Ricky Dillard. But she's on my label, and she's doing very well.
Wow, because she's on. So she wrote "Amazing" and she's on Release.
Yeah, both songs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, those are some heavy hitters right there. You said Tiff Joy, Tasha Cobbs, and Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
But who would be on your Mount Rushmore of gospel artists? Like, we do this a lot with sports and things like that, but who would that be for gospel music for you?
For me, definitely the Winans, all of them. Definitely BBCC.
One head.
Yeah, just all of them. They're like the first family of gospel. The Clark sisters, Yolanda Adams, Donnie McClurkin, Kirk Franklin, of course, Donald Lawrence. Whew, I mean, the list goes on and on, my man. That's it's like Mount Rushmore. I'm a gospel kid, so I grew up on them all. Even some who have passed away. One of my biggest influence, Thomas Whitfield, was one of the greatest songwriters ever. Andre Crouch, one of the greatest songwriters ever. So I can go on and on and on and on. But gospel has a great legacy and a great history of just music that lives longer than we can.
Yeah. We'll need a couple mountains.
Yeah.
For sure. So you are also heavily involved in the community, and you've done that for a while. And what is it that that drove you to have that type of passion? Like, I love seeing things done in the community, but I would be lying if I said, "Oh, I'm a community activist. I'm out here giving back every day." Like, I don't have that type of passion. But what gives someone like you that?
Well, I grew up with my grandparents. My mother was young when she had me, so it was community that raised me. So from my church in the community to different groups and Big Brother, Big Sister, and school programs and all that. And when I was coming, into the industry, I started to realize that some of those programs in the urban community were being taken away. Music programs were being cut in funding and things of that sort. So I found it to be like one of my goals to try my best to do what I can, to kind of recreate those experiences. So I became one of the Big Brothers, a Big Brother, Big Sister. I became one of the advocates for them as well, because I know a lot of kids come up with no parents, so they need that experience. And they're raised by their grandparents or aunts and uncles. And those Big Brother, Big Sister programs actually helps in maneuvering life. And then those arts programs, they're very important, especially to us. We enjoy music and instruments and all that. And so it was very important for me to connect with those who were doing it and try to do it even bigger.
Wow. So that is just something that's natural for you, because you said you came up in it.
Yeah, man. I was one of those kids that my grandparents was older, so they were working all day, so the whole community had to take care of me. So I get a whooping from my neighbor. Then my grandma when she got home, I was one of those. It was like it was a whole community though. We lived in Harvey, Illinois, and everyone knew everyone on the block and down the street, and we all went to the same high school and all that. So you couldn't get too much past the community that didn't get back to your family. So the community is very important to me.
Yeah, and that's amazing that like you could have done anything with your career, with your platform outside of music, and you chose to go back to like your roots and
Yeah.
brought you to it was part of what brought you to your success. So I definitely
Yeah,
think,
it's who I am.
yeah,
Success came, but it was not my goal. My goal was to just sing, write, and produce music because I was inspired by others to do it. And then I walked into it and realized that this is what I was called to do. And while I'm called to do it, I have to help those along the way, as long as I can.
So with you being a singer, a writer, a producer, what is a studio experience like with VaShawn Mitchell, given whatever hat you may be wearing that day, if you're not wearing all of them?
It's weird. As a songwriter, it's very organic. I don't try to force anything. I just, write from what I hear in the atmosphere. I write, even when I bring together other writers and groups and musicians, it's very important that we write not only from, the word of God, but also from what's going on in the world. So we have to listen to the news. I ask people to, listen to what's going on in CNN and things of that sort as we kind of prepare to write for world music. As a producer, it's kind of weird because I get stuck in the zone. And sometimes that zone is in my head and nobody else can get it. So it's hard to get it out. But I've connected with a lot of great other musicians and singers that start to understand me even better. And they can actually think before I think or before I say, even if I can't communicate it right, it comes back right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As a singer, I just like to get in my own space. Sometimes I like a dark room. Sometimes I like a lit room, depending on the song and how I want to feel. Because I believe that, it's not the lyrics or the words that come out, it's really the passion and the heart behind it. So however the experience happens, it has to happen from a place within you to come out and reach the hearts that are outside.
Wow. So is it hard when you are in your artist zone, when you're just singing, to take direction or have other writers or other producers around you treating you as the artist, when you know how to fill those roles too?
You know what? Sometimes it's hard, but most of the time I'm open to suggestion because I know my own limitations. And sometimes there's other producers, and sometimes I have vocal producers as well that can stretch me beyond where I know I can go. And I think that every artist should kind of consider someone around them who would stretch them because we tend to know what we can do, so we stay within our parameters of what we can do. But I have been stretched quite often, and I've had the ability to work with some great other producers that brought a lot out of me that I probably wouldn't have brought out myself.
So going back to your community involvement, you were very passionate and a big advocate for this past election and get people getting out to vote. But that's great for the country standpoint, but kind of just bringing it back to the church, because the church needs some help too. Because I think the pandemic especially caught a lot of churches off guard, and they didn't know how to respond to it. So where are areas with the times we're in now that you see the church may need help, and some advocates like yourself speaking out with that same type of energy before the church?
Well, to be totally honest, I think within the last 2 years, we've experienced not only pandemic, but riots and,
Yeah.
senseless killings and, some things that we haven't experienced in our lifetime, and I have to be honest, a lot of that used to happen before. We thought it was over. We got to see it firsthand, and now we understand it better. So I think the church is right where it needs to be. Because now everyone is cognizant of what's going on in the world, and everyone is becoming an advocate of not only holiness of hell, but also now there's reality around us that we have to actually deal with in order to keep our constituents together. And although we found out there's a separation between church and state because of the 501c3 status and all that, our churches understand that there's not a separation between church and the people. And that's become very important to everyone, not only voting for the last election, but understanding the importance of voting. As I was growing up, it wasn't really taught to me why we vote, or so although I was an advocate for the presidency, I'm also an advocate for our local elections, knowing who's in the office, knowing who's carrying our voice to the Senate and to the Congress and things of that sort, because the only way we can get power is if we get position. And that's really important, and not power as far as taking over something, but power as far as our voice having a meaning and having a saying beyond our local influence. So where church is now, I think, right where it needs to be, and understanding that we can no longer be in the box when there's a world outside of us. Wow. We have to actually be in the world outside and take it to the box. So,
yeah, no, I think we have a responsibility as a church to be aware of it, but not be of it.
Right.
And I think that's tough on pastors, and it has to be tough, especially on folks like yourself. Not only with you, what we know you as for your mainstream music scene, but you're a praise and worship leader also.
Yeah,
you're like the first line of defense when service starts.
Yeah.
So how does that, what's going on in the world affect how you approach opening a service?
Well, it doesn't affect it as much. And I say that because praise and worship is one of the only parts of service that's actually for God.
Mm-hmm.
So our job is to mainly stay pure, no matter what's going on around us, no matter what we're carrying, in order for us to kind of lead people to a place that they either haven't been before or they need to experience. So sometimes you block out those things in order for the experience, a God experience, and not necessarily a personal experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's real good, and knowing how to stay in what the assignment is at the time, because we have seen leaders of all sort have the platform but use it for the wrong purpose.
Yeah, we have a lot of platforms, like you said, a singer, producer, songwriter, worship leader, minister of music, sometimes consultant, and all that. And it's very important to stay in the lane that you're assigned to at the time. And that's what a lot of people don't get, and it's hard to get it. But once you understand that right now I'm assigned to be a worship leader, not necessarily an influencer at this point. So as a worship leader, my only job at this point is to lead people to the presence of God. To open the hearts of the people. And, as a producer, my only job is to produce, as a song, sometimes those lanes cross, but most of the time we have to be very careful to stay in the lane we're assigned to, so we won't have an accident, and that's like real talk. If we step out of that lane, oftentimes you can't control the traffic. So it's best that you stay in the lane you're assigned to in order to control the traffic that you're supposed to at the time.
Wow. No, that's good. You get out of your lane, you could cause an accident, and then it goes beyond. It could go beyond any other those other lanes that you are assigned to.
Yeah.
Like if you mess up as a vocalist and try to step over as a producer, well, your vocalist can't fix that producer problem that you just caused.
Yeah.
And then same thing with being a praise and worship leader. I just admire folks like yourself that do that, because one, well, that ain't me. And so I always get amazed by, things that I don't have the ability to do. But to me, it just seems like it's so much pressure just to be that first one. Like you have people coming in, or now, streaming in, that are, like we were talking about, dealing with stuff in the world, dealing with personal problems, and they are depending on church to get that answer, to get that escape, to remind themselves of who God is. And as soon as they turn it on, then it's you.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Yeah. And it's a very important task. We cannot say that, but it's very important that we understand the task, and that we actually sit ourselves down and allow God to rise up in the moment. Because every time somebody click in, every time somebody walk in, whatever, that experience has to be a God experience and not a personal experience in order for them to be at peace, be at rest. Because we understand all the scriptures of the Bible that tell us that God brings us peace, He brings us, rest, He brings us revelation on all that. But it's important that we allow Him to do it. So that means just singing, exhorting, things that sort, whatever we need to do. The most important part is that our heart is felt and that what's released is pure. And that's what makes the difference in just leading worship and leading people to the right place.
Yeah. And, in a year where a lot of people were, losing jobs or not getting, or as artists, not going on tour, not doing a lot of live performances, you were well booked. So how did that help you either grow as a leader, or like what did you take from still being very active in a year where there was a lot of downtime?
You know what? It was downtime for me because I'm used to traveling, like out the country, probably 6 months out the year. But this year I was booked a different way. Last couple of years, so that meant I had to kind of up my production game. Start my little home studio and learn my own engineering techniques and things of that sort. And so it was a little difficult. But honestly, I'm coming out of the pandemic, as it is kind of coming to a halt a little bit, but I'm coming out of it better than I went in, because now, I don't have to, ask an engineer to give me everything. Now I can actually do my vocal at home if I need to and send it in and tune it up myself and all that kind of stuff, whatever. I think it's a stretch to a lot of us, but we had to use the rest and use the time apart to kind of strengthen other parts of us that was just taken for granted. Like I can always go to a studio. I can always call my musician and be like, yeah, let's do this, whatever, or I can go record somewhere. But now I know how to do it on my own if I need to. And I also know what to expect once I go to the studio even better, because I've had the experience of almost 2 years of doing it myself. And that's just one example. I also decided to go back to school, man, during the pandemic. I've experienced a lot and I've done a lot, but I'm 6 months away from my music business degree because, although I am artist and all that kind of stuff, I started walking into labels and I'm on my own label that's partnered with other labels now, other than 10 years ago when I was signed to a label. So I'm experiencing different conversations, different business meetings, different DSP situations and all that. And some of it honestly was foreign to me. So I decided to go back to school and finish my degree finally. 6 months away. I keep saying that because it's been a long time coming, but it has not been as bad as people say, because sometimes we can be too busy for God, So I think we have been put on pause in order to hear and kind of complete some of those things that we put down and refocus and restructure and move forward even better in our assignment.
Wow. No, that's just another thing I commend, going back to school. Woo! I can't.
That's what I said. I was like, woo, every class. But
every time
I'm doing it.
Every time I think about going back to school, I get excited, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna have homework. I'm like, yeah.
I'm in an accelerated class, so every 4 weeks is done. So if you flunk anything, it's over. So like I've been doing homework all week and reading all week. Wow. But I believe it's important as we grow in the industry. We can't just say I own my own label, I own my masters, and I know what to do with them. Yeah. And that was important to me. Now maybe others may not think so, but it's important to me to at least know what to do with them, and to understand some of the law classes and things of that sort as it relates to contracts and all that. That's very important to the background of seeing us in the front, is the contracts that we're under and how we're maneuvering and things of that sort. So, it's taught me a lot. I started a few years ago and I stopped because I got busy again. And while I was on, I guess what you call it, COVID sit down, I realized I wasn't busy no more. So I had to pick it back up, and I'm glad I did, because I'm learning quite a bit, and I believe it's going to help my future and the future of those that are connected to me.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's huge, because you were already doing the work of what you could do and what you're going to do with the degree that you're getting. Now that's just going to enhance that.
Yeah. I told one of my instructors that I always got the experience, but it's great to add the education to the experience, especially with the ever-changing music industry. because some of my experience was when CDs were selling, was when I was out when cassettes were selling. Some of my experience was when, it's like I've had experience and I own, my own label. I got publishing companies and things of that sort. But what to do with them now, I think, being educated in that is very important because the music industry changes almost every 3 months now, so it's good for us to keep up with the change so that we can remain relevant, but also keep our sound present, as it moves forward.
Yeah. And obviously you have been able to adapt because that's how you have maintained your relevance and longevity as an artist. You said you out when cassettes were out, and now you just recorded an album where you were just at home for Christmas.
Yeah. Never been done before.
Right.
But we're learning new things, new ways, creative ways to budget and all that. It's happening during the pandemic. So even once things become normal again, we're able to manage the normalcy, whatever that is, because we learned how to manage when it was abnormal. So,
Wow, that's huge, man. And you like just keep doing your thing. And I just know, like, I believe right now you're doing some necessary training ground work to excel even more. And
that's the goal.
And I mean, and that's a lot, to say to you, as someone that's already done so much in that what we just touched on today. But now you learning through last year, you're going back to school, you picked up even more skills. It's like I think you're just setting yourself up for that much more greater coming your way.
Right. That's the goal, my man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, I just want you to fill in the blank.
Uh-oh.
No, it's good. It's okay. All right. So I am VaShawn Mitchell, and I am inspired by blank.
I'm VaShawn Mitchell, and I'm inspired by life and life experiences through God.
You want to go a little deeper on that? You just gonna leave us hanging?
Well, I believe that the biggest thing that I could have ever learned in my life is that who I am in God and my assignment on the earth. Because as I walk on my assignment on the earth, I number one please God, but I also complete my assignment. So,
wow. Yeah. No, yeah, and that's not to be overlooked because a lot of people constantly look for like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? So, when you get it, you gotta go.
You gotta go, man. I promise you, because I didn't have it for a long time. So when I learned it, I realized that I have to continue being that. I can't step out of it. I can't move in my own way. I have to really continue my assignment because that is what is pleasing God, and it's also, it's defining success. A lot of people, tend to, the show is about what it's about, inspired. A lot of people tend to define success by awards and shows and things of that sort, but it's not. When you walk out your assignment on the earth and you know who you are in God, you define success yourself. Because as long as you're completing your assignment, you're successful. And that's the most important thing to me. So that sometimes I may have a number one record, sometimes I may have a number 69, and I'm still successful because I'm still doing what God has called me to do, and I'm walking in my assignment.
Yeah, that's huge. And I could talk about that all day, but is there anything else that you want us to know that we didn't get to touch on before we get out of here?
Man, I think we covered quite a bit. I just want, everyone who's being inspired now to just be inspired by a kid from southside of Chicago who they thought would make it, thought wouldn't be nobody. But, one day I found out who I was and I found out my assignment and I kept walking in that. And I'm not, there's no plans to stop walking in who I am until God calls me home.